to Destiny's Child, it was a moving train. So I was learning as I was going, right? I didn't have a lot of the media training and the development that Beyonce and Kelly had. I came in that group a team player. I came in that group, what do y'all need me to do? Because I knew of these girls who had a dream and an aspect of that didn't work out. How can I come in and help us win? So I always feel like regardless, throughout the years, regardless of what has been written about me, whatever is said about me, I knew my mission and we had an agreement.
People always talk about how success can change your life, but nobody ever mentions how it can twist your story in ways you don't expect. Michelle Williams' experience is one of those cases where the world sees the glamour, the fame, and the chart-topping moments, but behind the scenes, she was dealing with a different reality altogether. While fans were celebrating the music, Michelle was quietly navigating a system that didn't always treat her like she belonged there, even though her talent was just as real and just as powerful. Michelle was standing next to two huge talents, Beyonce and Kelly, and while the group was collecting #1 records like it was nothing, she was constantly being treated like the extra piece. Fans would compare her nonstop, and not in a kind way. They would pick apart her every move, every note, every moment on stage, acting like she didn't deserve to be there, even though she had the same work ethic and passion as everyone else. And the inside pressure wasn't any lighter. The people managing the group would remind her how lucky she was to have the position, almost like they wanted her to believe she should stay quiet and just blend into the background. They made it clear thousands of people would have taken her place in a heartbeat, so she should just smile and stay in line.
I remember telling our manager at the time as well, hey, I think I'm dealing with some depression. And he wanted me to see the brighter side of things. No, y'all are about to go on tour. Y'all got Barbie dolls. What are you talking about? Y'all just signed a crazy big deal with Columbia. I could see myself in a pit trying to get out, just feeling so heavy that when I would make one step, the weight would just...
Meanwhile, Beyonce and Kelly were being placed front and center while Michelle became the easy target for criticism every time something didn't look perfect. Even today, years after the group stopped performing together, people still won't let her live down those old narratives. Michelle has been opening up more about what was really happening behind the scenes, and she's finally addressing how often she was pushed aside so the spotlight could shine on the other two members. And honestly, hearing it in her own words puts everything into perspective. But before diving deeper into that, it helps to understand who Michelle actually was before Destiny's Child, because she wasn't some random person who appeared out of nowhere. Michelle Williams had a solid foundation as a vocalist long before she stepped into the group. She grew up surrounded by music, and her roots were deep in gospel. She was singing in church at just 7 years old, and that environment shaped her tone, her control, and the emotion she brings into every performance. If you listen closely to Destiny's Child songs, especially the harmonies, it's impossible to miss how much her gospel background added to the group's signature sound. That soulful style was a huge part of her artistry, and it still comes through today whenever she sings. The interesting part is that Michelle didn't even plan on becoming a full-time musician. After finishing high school, she actually enrolled at Louisiana State University to study criminal justice. She was on a completely different path, figuring out what she wanted from life, and music wasn't supposed to become her career. But 2 years into her studies, something pulled her back towards singing. She realized that the passion she had growing up in church never really went away. So she made a bold choice. She stepped away from her degree and decided to give music a real shot. That decision changed everything, and it set her on a path that would eventually land her inside one of the biggest music groups of the early 2000s. What happened next is a whole story of its own, and Michelle is finally making it clear what that journey really felt like. When Michelle stepped away from school and decided to give music a real shot, she didn't waste any time chasing opportunities. She started performing in clubs, grinding late nights, and putting her voice anywhere people would listen. That hustle eventually landed her a gig singing background for Monica. And that move changed her entire life. Working behind a superstar gave her real industry experience. but it also put her in the perfect place at the perfect time, even though she didn't realize it back then. During that period, Destiny's Child was dealing with serious tension behind closed doors. There were creative disagreements, management issues, and longtime members feeling like something wasn't adding up. The original lineup wasn't the trio the world recognizes today. It started with Beyonce Knowles, Kelly Rowland, LaToya Luckett, and Latavia Robertson. 4 girls who grew up together, trained together, and formed a bond their fans connected with from the beginning. But as the group's fame skyrocketed, the business side of things got messy. LaToya and Latavia became uncomfortable with how Matthew Knowles, the group's manager, was handling decisions. They believed he wasn't looking out for everyone equally, and that Beyonce and Kelly were being given more favorable treatment when it came to opportunities and the money the group was making. They also felt like his share of the profits was way too big and that the group needed someone more neutral to manage their careers. These concerns caused huge cracks in the group's foundation. And when LaToya and Latavia decided they wanted different management, that opened the door for a major shift. Suddenly, fans were confused, the media was buzzing, and everyone wanted to know what would happen next. The group was too big for changes like this to happen quietly, so every move was being watched. Now, here's where Michelle quietly steps into the picture. In late 1999, she randomly crossed paths with Beyonce and Kelly in the lobby of an Atlanta hotel. It was a quick hello, nothing deep, no long conversation. But it planted a tiny seed. They weren't strangers anymore. Just a year later, when Beyonce began asking around for someone who could sing and blend well with the group, one name came up immediately: Michelle Williams. At that point, Destiny's Child was officially bringing in new faces.
What made you second guess?
You know what? It's not that I was second guessing. I'm just aware. You know, some people are like, oh my gosh, it's stuck. They said it stuck with her. No, it didn't stick with me. You know, just sometimes you're aware that you're not everybody's favorite.
Even up until now, fans won't.
After the breakup became public, the group added Michelle and Farrah Franklin, turning the trio into a quartet again, at least temporarily. And while fans didn't quite know who Michelle was yet, the industry people Beyonce trusted were vouching for her talent and professionalism. But things didn't stay stable for long. Farrah Franklin's time with the group was short and chaotic. Even though she joined with Michelle, her involvement didn't run smoothly. She struggled to keep up with the intense schedule. And within months, she started disappearing from appearances and promo events. After just 5 months, she was out of the picture completely. It was sudden, confusing for fans, and added even more drama to an already messy transition. And that moment, Farrah exiting the group, is what finally locked in the Destiny's Child lineup the world would come to recognize: Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle. A solid trio that would go on to drop hits, sweep awards, and become one of the most iconic girl groups in pop and R&B history. But here's the thing, even though Michelle was now part of this powerhouse group, the public didn't know her yet. She came in during a storm, a time when everyone was arguing, criticizing, and watching closely. Fans were still attached to LaToya and Latavia, so they weren't eager to embrace the new members instantly. Michelle didn't get a warm welcome. She walked right into chaos, confusion, and pressure from every direction. People acted like she was a random replacement instead of an artist who had already paid her dues behind the scenes. And that's where her real journey inside the group began. Not with applause, not with fair treatment, but with the expectation that she needed to prove herself every single day, while the world compared her to people she didn't replace by choice. Michelle's story wasn't just about joining Destiny's Child, it was about surviving it. Michelle didn't step into Destiny's Child with the same background as Beyonce and Kelly, and that alone put her in a tough spot from day one. She didn't grow up training under Matthew Knowles. She wasn't molded through the same style of rehearsals. And she didn't come from that well-known, polished system the other two were built through. Michelle was still learning the ropes of the music industry, figuring out her voice and her space, and most people didn't know her well enough to understand just how strong her talent really was.
Opened up about your insecurities about your singing voice. You even stated that you knew you weren't the vocal favorite of Destiny's Child. Is that something?
And let's not forget, when Michelle arrived, Destiny's Child already had a loyal fan base. People were still emotional about the lineup change, still adjusting to the idea that the original 4 weren't coming back. A lot of fans just wanted stability again. They wanted the group to win, but they weren't sure if these new members could carry the same energy. Michelle walked straight into those expectations, carrying the weight of decisions she didn't even make. But she didn't let any of that slow her down. Michelle came in focused, humble, and ready to work. She clicked naturally with Beyonce and Kelly, and their relationship quickly shifted from co-workers to something closer to real sisterhood. Michelle showed up when she was supposed to, learned her parts, delivered her vocals exactly how the group needed, and respected the structure that was already in place. She didn't complain, she didn't act entitled, she just did her job and kept moving forward. Then came their first major moment as the new trio, Independent Women Part 1, for the Charlie's Angels soundtrack. The song exploded. It climbed the charts like wildfire and confirmed that the new lineup wasn't just holding things together. They were thriving. With that hit, Destiny's Child officially reintroduced themselves as a solid three-woman force, and they had the world paying attention again. But the real turning point came with the release of their album Survivor. If people thought Destiny's Child was already big, this album made them gigantic. Survivor shot straight to #1 on the Billboard charts and went on to sell around 10 million copies worldwide. The trio was everywhere. Interviews, award shows, magazine covers, TV performances, nonstop movement, and nonstop success. And during this era, Michelle started building her signature lane inside the group. She became known for her song bridges, those emotional vocal moments that tie a track together and shift the whole vibe. Her tone, her gospel influence, and the softness she brought to those sections became a key part of Destiny's Child's sound, even if not everyone realized it at first. But with fame always comes a complicated spotlight. As Destiny's Child moved into superstar territory, the public started watching Michelle more closely, and not always with kindness. Some people weren't looking to appreciate her, they were looking to compare her. And when you're standing next to Beyonce, a natural entertainer, a powerhouse vocalist, and the face of the group, the comparisons got loud. Kelly also held her ground with confidence, beauty, strong vocals, and a stage presence that demanded attention. Fans either admired her, wanted to be like her, or were drawn in by her charm. So when Michelle stood between these two, some people didn't bother giving her a fair chance. They looked at her and decided she didn't match their idea of what the group should look like, even though she was putting in just as much work and adding real value to the music. Michelle wasn't lacking talent. She wasn't out of place. She wasn't the weak link people tried to label her as. What she was dealing with was an audience that had already made up its mind before she even opened her mouth. And that's the part that hurt the most. Not because Michelle ever doubted her own ability, but because so many people refused to see her as an equal member of a group she helped take to new heights. Michelle didn't just survive Destiny's Child, she helped shape the era that made them legendary. And the world was only beginning to notice. Even after Michelle proved she could hold her own, people still acted like she didn't fit the image Destiny's Child had built before she arrived. Fans constantly compared her style, her movement, even the way she held the mic, treating her like she wasn't measuring up. Beyonce and Kelly had years of intense training behind them, rehearsing since childhood, preparing for the spotlight long before fame found them. Michelle walked into a machine that was already moving at full speed, and she had to adjust while the world watched every tiny thing she did. Her dancing wasn't as polished in the beginning, and sometimes she came off a little stiff on stage. Not because she wasn't trying, but because she was still figuring out how to perform under pressure in front of millions of people. But instead of giving her room to grow, the audience would freeze frame her every move, zoom in on her slip-ups, and hype up Beyonce and Kelly like Michelle didn't even exist. She wasn't used to that level of visibility, and the constant public critique didn't make the transition any easier. Being in the group helped her career, but it also boxed her in. When the spotlight hit, it rarely landed on her. Most of her parts were bridges, ad-libs, or background moments that supported the main vocals. So people assumed she only sang those sections because she couldn't match Beyonce and Kelly. They decided she was less talented without ever actually listening to what she brought to the harmonies and the emotional tone of their songs. And the resentment didn't stop there. Some fans were still upset that LaToya and LaTavia were no longer in the group. They felt those two deserved to enjoy the fame they helped build. And instead of blaming the business decisions or the management issues, they took their frustration out on Michelle. She walked into a situation she had nothing to do with, yet she became the target of their disappointment. All of this started weighing heavily on her. Michelle wasn't made of stone. She felt every jab, every comparison, every unfair comment. She eventually opened up to Matthew Knowles and told him she was struggling emotionally, that the pressure was getting to her and she might be dealing with depression. Instead of giving her understanding, he brushed her off. He told her she had no reason to feel that way because the group was successful, the money was good, and the opportunities were big. But that's the thing. You can have everything on paper and still feel overwhelmed. Michelle was expected to smile, rehearse, show up, perform, and pretend she wasn't hurting, even though the world was criticizing her louder than anyone else in that group. And because of all that pressure, she never really got the full benefit of the Destiny's Child spotlight. Most people forget that she was actually the first member to go solo. She took the leap before the other two, but the public didn't celebrate it the way they should have. Her voice shined brightest in gospel, and going that route ended up being the best decision she could have made. It gave her space to breathe, to be herself, and to finally connect with people who appreciated her for her ability, not her comparison to the woman standing next to her. Gospel allowed Michelle to build a fan base that saw her value in a way the mainstream world refused to acknowledge inside the group. And once she stepped into that lane, she started becoming the version of herself she was always meant to be. Michelle kept pushing, no matter how many obstacles were thrown her way, and her fourth studio album, Journey to Freedom, proved that her talent deserved real attention. The project brought her right back into the spotlight, and even though it didn't debut at the very top, hitting number 29 on the Billboard 200 was still a strong moment for her career. What really shook things up was her song, Say Yes, featuring Beyonce and Kelly. That track had people smiling, singing, and celebrating her all over again because it reminded the world just how uplifting her voice can be. Even with all of her success, the world still doesn't look at Michelle the same way they look at Beyonce and Kelly. And that's the part that stings the most. She stays booked, stays working, and stays consistent. Yet there are still pages dedicated to making fun of her, like she didn't help create some of the most memorable music of the 2000s. It's wild how people ignore the fact that she contributed to a legendary group and built a solid career of her own. But here's the beautiful part. Lately, more people have started standing up for her, and it's about time. Folks are finally acknowledging the pressure she walked into and how much she had to learn in such a short amount of time. They're recognizing the way she held her own beside two artists who had been training since childhood, while she basically jumped into the deep end and still managed to shine. It's refreshing to see the internet giving Michelle her flowers because she earned every single one of them. A lot of people now say Michelle never got enough grace for stepping into Destiny's Child during one of their most chaotic eras. She had to learn the routines, the harmonies, the stage chemistry, and the entire vibe of a global group in just a few months, all while being compared to members who had been there since the beginning. That takes strength, talent, and a kind of quiet confidence that most people don't have. It's no secret that Beyonce and Kelly were always framed as the front-facing stars, but that doesn't mean Michelle was some weak link drifting behind them. She brought soul, depth, and emotion to their songs, and her bridges became one of the sweetest parts of their entire sound. People even call her the Bridge Queen, and honestly, she deserves that title because she added a warmth that made their music hit different. Michelle didn't crumble under the pressure. She adapted, she grew, and she carved out her own space in music when the odds were stacked against her. And now, more fans are realizing how unfair the early criticism was. They see how much she contributed, how fast she learned, and how she kept showing up even when people tried to tear her down. That strength alone makes her iconic. So let me ask you this. Do you think Beyonce and Kelly stood out more in Destiny's Child, or do you think Michelle was underrated from the start? I want to hear your thoughts because this story hits way deeper once you really understand everything she went through. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, share, and subscribe because there's plenty more celebrity drama coming your way and you do not want to miss what's dropping next. Hit that button, stay locked in, and check out the next video that's about to pop up on your screen for even more stories behind the stars. See you in the next one.